Well, I've had just about enough welding and grinding, I can tell you that. But this slight refurbishment has turned into really a complete full restoration. Between the rust, the transmission, the interior, the ducktail, this has become a full-time job, and I'm not a body guy. But we've made progress. This flare profile, this car is number 95 of the 528 Carreras built in '74. These were still welded on by hand, and this particular flare is still the profile of the '73 RS. After the first couple of hundred of these '74 Carreras, they started using the SC flare, which has a different profile. So this is cool that it sort of harkens back, whatever that means, to the '73 RS. Now this is one of the problems right here. This intercooler requires the use of a turbo tail, which I don't want on this vehicle. So we need a ducktail to go on here, but how in the world are we going to get that to go on? I'm about to ruin a $300 grill, I guess. Needs to be cut out around the intercooler, which you can see there. Okay, got it cut out, rough cut. May not close, we're about to find out. Hoping that the intercooler will just poke out and we can paint it black and it'll blend in. Yeah. Well. I'm going to give it a B for now. I'll see if I can improve it a little bit. Now to take this awful fiberglass front spoiler off here. It does have a good brake upgrade. Brimtex. Floating hats, looks good. Going to update the oil cooler lines, ditch those flexible lines. Didn't have a whole lot holding it on. Hi, caramba. Well, here it is. Look at this big pile of dung. Well, that's the bumpers off the crush. This is what happens when you don't use a turbo heat shield in the back. See, it actually cooked the paint. And look at this fuel line somebody ran on this thing. outside the car, zip tied to the oil line, goes all the way up there to the fuel pump in the front to the gas tank. Here, does a little curl there, goes by the battery, all jammed in there, and it's crammed up to the top there. That's the worst fuel line installation I've ever seen. Here we are on the front end of this. Look at this fuel system someone installed, leaking onto the electrical contacts. Bunch of different fittings, and then screwed to the floor chassis of this 911, hanging down. Who does that kind of an install? Jeez, the only thing I can think of worse than that is this song playing. This day's not working out for me. Needs a 930 muffler. Got a few interesting items here. Look at this. Okay, here we have the turbo, which looks good. I don't see any radial play, but what the? Well, now that ain't right. And Stuttgart, we have a problem. Look at the clearance between this turbo oil catch tank and this header. And when I say clearance, I mean there is none. So this car had been previously known to be run hot. Well, this is not helping.
Now it should be noted that none of this is the way the car left the factory. The turbo, the oil catch tank, the headers, that's all custom.
I mean, engine's coming out. That's the next step. Never used this cart before. There's Turner, he's helping. We'll see how it goes.
Now, I've been removing and installing 911 engines since I was in the 11th grade, but it's always been with a modified motorcycle jack. I had recently noticed one of these lift tables at a machine shop and had the idea to give this a whirl instead of the old jack. And you know what? It worked great. Wish I'd have figured this out years ago. Some of us just aren't that smart.
That's it. Look at that. See, that's perfect. That's perfect. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be corrected on this thing. But it's out. There's the ubiquitous spray can lid blocking the heater duct. There's a scavenge pump off the end of the camshaft for the turbo. Phenolic block still in place. Original wastegate. Have some degreasing work to do in here, and why people drill holes in everything. Good grief.
Two hours later.
Well, this might be the end of not going to paint the fenders. Got a little hole here. This is what happens when you repair a rusty area and don't prep it and don't do it welded up right, and you just cover it with Bondo. Well, here's what's left of the fender. Just kind of sad it. Thought it'd be there for a while. It's
something in my eye. Just have to cut the fender here and weld on this donor over here. Alright, here we have the rear valence. So it's going to be sort of as normal until we reach the end over here. This is where the muffler usually comes out. But since I'm going to have a single outlet right off the turbo, I'm going to bring this secondary valence that I had, which was not in that great a shape. I've got it bolted in here. I'm going to bring it around, drill a hole here, and have it come to the very end, just like it does on the other side. Like that. So, noticed on the suspension, this is the tow hook. Let me rephrase that. This was the tow hook. And as you can see now, it's been drugged to the point where it's razor sharp. And most of it's missing. I've got new suspension from the donor car out there I put on, but look at this one. Here's the tow hook on this side, and it's equally as bad.
So what I want to do now that this car is all apart is I want to make sure that it's put back together right. The color needs to be right. The original E7 orange needs to be back on the car, not signal orange or tangerine, whichever color this was painted in. Initially, I was going to save the paint and run it as kind of a hot rod. Didn't have to be perfect to be a good driver, but the rust was too extensive. I've got a whole stockpile of parts in the Westphalia for this car. I thought I was just going to be able to buy them and start putting them on and making these upgrades, but the deeper we got, the more we realized it was going to take a complete restoration. So our light refurbishment has turned into a complete restoration process. With that said, it's easy to see how much work is actually still involved in this project. There's a long way to go. I better get busy. Back to the grinder. Thanks for watching.